You found the Live Local Marketing Podcast, where business owners share their knowledge about what's working in the market today. No fluff, just their experiences and stories from people who are making it happen. And if authentic, practical marketing resonates with you, be sure to visit livelocalwarmmarketing.com and learn to grow your business on warm marketing referrals. Now, on to the show. Welcome. Thanks for joining us here again today with another episode of the Live Local Marketing Podcast. We're here with Josh. And Josh runs Bright, and it's an local SEO company that really sits down and looks at companies' goals and what they really need to achieve. And it's not I think you called it an action list. It's not an action list. It's a to-do list, right? So I'm excited to see kind of strategies you use and how you really help local businesses. The format, and again, real quick, you get 2 minutes. We got a list of topics off to the right-hand side. If he goes over a little bit, not a big deal. If we go under a little bit, I always have some cool questions to ask as well. And then he'll take us out with his business and how to get a hold of him. So once we get a chance to pick his brain, you'll have opportunities to follow up and talk with him. So all set, ready to go, Josh?
Let's do it.
All right. You want Joshua or Josh?
Yeah, Josh was good. Yeah.
Oh, Joshua. Okay, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
All right. So as an entrepreneur, sir, what do you consider your first win?
Yeah. Well, my first one was basically just jumping into the internet when it was early. Yeah. And, we started a little financial lead generation site, and that, ended up giving me a solid baseline of income to kind of be able to jump off. I feel like that first jumping off point for everybody is so huge, right? A little bit of money, you can survive, and I can kind of iterate to the next step. So that was, a really big win and kind of my foray into everything I do, which is just trying to get leads online. And that's kind of made its way to SEO. But, that was SEO and web development and, websites back in the early 2000s and just kind of going through that whole thing. So that would be kind of my first win. So
you started in the 2000s, and that internet was pretty clunky in the start.
Yeah.
What things have you enjoyed as far as like the development's concerned? I'm sure you've seen some really cool technology adjustments. What are some of your favorites?
Well, I'd say getting into, and I think people still getting involved in like SMS autoresponders and stuff, right? I think that's still a big miss for a lot of businesses not having that, especially because, you're a solopreneur, you're working at a local business and you're getting calls all the time that you can't answer. And just even having that quick, like, hey, sorry, we missed you. If you want to schedule your plumbing, appointment here, that's been one of the bigger changes that I've seen that's been, I think, helpful and still not entirely utilized, I think, at a high level for most businesses.
Do you gravitate towards certain kinds of businesses, or you just you're agnostic, help anybody?
No, I gravitate towards home services. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Roofers, gutters, that's the kind of stuff I gravitate towards. For sure.
Yeah, they need a lot of help. They're out there in the field doing the work. That makes sense.
And they're similar, right? If I start getting, I like helping, dentists. I've helped some dentists, some doctors, but it starts to change so much. And I feel like, I want to be an expert and help as much as I can. I'd rather continue to shrink down who I help and do a better job, right? So that's been my focus for sure.
That makes sense. That's good. So when you sit down with these, mostly it's some trades and so forth, there has to be a pretty strong conversation about the importance of branding. How does that conversation look when you sit down with a client?
That's actually something I have gone from being super involved in to less involved in. And now I'm going back into being super involved in. It is really hard to have that conversation with people. Branding is a very personal conversation. And I think people start to feel like they're being attacked a little bit. They get defensive and that becomes difficult. But I think the reason I've kind of flipped on this is because, more and more that becomes this focal point decision that can really help boost your business, especially in the home services where like memorability, if somebody can remember your name and it's unique, you get so much benefit from that you just can't get from putting money out there, I guess is how I would say it. So that is a big focus for me this year. And I'm likely going to be doing less customer work and trying to do more for a customer that I take on, because it's really hard to win, and especially as things just get harder. It's getting harder and harder. I'm just repeating myself, to win without separating yourself in those ways.
Yeah.
I think is
Do you sit
that's
down
a
and
great
have like a
question.
series of questions, or how do you go about doing it? Like, how do you crack that egg, man? How do you get into it with them?
Yeah, well, I think you just got to find the people who either are unfortunately so battered down that they're like, tell me what to do, or you got to find the people who understand the risk reward of that kind of a conversation
Yeah.
and then hit them at that time. But honestly, I don't I would say the ones I've had the best wins with were the ones that were kind of starting fresh and they didn't really even have
Oh,
anything big to begin with. And
that's cool.
and the wins from those have been so dramatic that I think that's why I want to start moving that into more of a core piece. Like if I can't do that for you, if that's not a conversation that you're willing to have, then I need to think about whether this is going to work for me because I want you to win, you know?
Yeah, you
So
need something to work with. That's good. That's excellent. So that actually moves us right into that next question, which is, you've been doing this for so long. What you're taking on more parts, you're doing more interaction. At this time, how many things do you take on personally, and how much do you like have a team or pass stuff off to other people?
yeah.
A quick break before we get to that next answer, because I know that answer is going to be brilliant, which is why I chose this moment to interrupt. If you love what you're seeing and you want to run your business off of warm marketing referrals, visit our website, livelocalwarmmarketing.com. It's got valuable resources, office hours, memberships, the book, an array of resources to help you get rid of cold calls, cold leads, door knocking, and run a business you can be proud of through referrals and warm marketing. Now, back to the show.
Well, I have a team that helps me do everything, right? I mean, I think that's just the way you have to be these days to get a lot done, but I'm very involved in it. And look, I love SEO. I love local SEO, so I just kind of study it a lot
Yeah.
during the day and I try to be on that forefront of what's happening. So, yeah, I think that's part of my system for sure. I don't know if that really answers the question.
No, it does. It does.
Um
So, I mean, you probably do a lot of like the one-on-ones, the first initial meetings, but then when it
yeah,
probably comes to like the minutia, you seem like you hand a little bit off to the team, like maybe even setting up designs and stuff, or maybe
yeah.
descriptions and things.
I try to be the manager of the
That's good.
projects. You know,
Yeah,
that's you got to have a lot of accountability, but
got it.
you have to if you want to scale, right? Like I have to do the things I would tell my business owners to do, right? I don't
Okay,
want you at every plumbing job, right? It's not going to work out long term if you're there,
makes
right?
sense.
So I got to do that same thing. But as far as making sure that the job's getting done correctly and all that, I think that's kind of the entrepreneurial. That's where you're gonna
Right.
most businesses are gonna be.
How would you
So
describe yourself as a manager? Are you very hands-on, or are you like very hands-off? Like, how do you describe yourself?
yeah, I would say I've gone from hands off and learning the lessons of that to
Mm,
continuing to be more and more hands on.
got it.
It's just y- as an entrepreneur, you're not going to find other entrepreneurs to work with you, and if you do, they're not going to be there that long,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yes,
have
makes
to
sense.
learn to personalities, and I've been learning a lot more about that this year. It's been a big focus over 2025. So yeah, it's fun though.
That makes sense.
It's the game that's interesting. It's a very fun and interesting game to learn. I'd say if you haven't hired anybody, go hire somebody because you're gonna have to learn that game at some point, even if it's just a VA, you know, out of another country. I think that's a
So, but I
good
say
thing to
you're
do.
kind of saying though, I'm to stay on the
Yeah.
topic a little bit longer. You're trying to find people that aren't like you that fill in your gaps. Is that kind of what your advice would be?
Yeah. Oof. I think you just have to
Yeah,
find good people and then
got it.
figure out how to get them to work in the system, right? I've had to adapt I would say I adapt my system to the people more than I force
Okay,
my people to adapt in the system. I like happy people that are
got it.
enjoying their
Got it.
work.
Got it.
So I
Okay,
try to make that a big point of emphasis for what I do, you know.
that's very excellent. That's excellent. So you've been doing this since the early 2000 when you still had the AOL disk and you still shoved it into the computer and everything. What systems have you forgone? What is it like? I don't do that. I will never do that again. It definitely doesn't work.
You know, everybody puts SEO in the marketing category, but it's kind of just like reverse engineering more than it is
Oh, okay.
marketing. And so I've taken that more, on more and more. Another SEO said to me that it's more like hacking than it is like marketing, which
Oh,
I thought that was
that's
an
interesting.
interesting way of saying it.
Mm,
But yeah, like Facebook ads, even Google ads, those kind of marketing, I've continued to get I just continue to chunk more and more into what I'm good at and doing one
got it.
thing and doing it well, because every time you add a different kind of, a plumber and an HVAC, as much as they might seem a lot alike, they're way different. And so
Yes, it
trying to
definitely is.
do a lot of things for a lot of different types of companies, I don't think it works very well. I think the weaknesses show themselves pretty quickly. So I continue to do less and less. Um, that's where I've kind of moved into the
Yep,
SEO and just
got it.
SEO, right?
So
So
you do a lot with maps and Google. I've seen you do a lot of Google Maps
yes.
and Google SEO. Um, explain that process. Like I'm not good at that. How would you explain it to a dummy like me?
Yeah. I mean, you got to give Google the information, and then you got to give customers the information, right? And some of that's on me. I put it all on me, but there's things like reviews, right? That
Yeah,
the customers involved with getting. That's a big part of this. The website, the content on the website, making sure things match up. That's
got it.
all really important piece of this. But you are running two algorithms, right? Google Maps is completely different than Google search. And then
Mhm.
AI search is now coming in too, right? So I have to be kind of aware of all of those. But with maps, that's where the majority of customers come for
Yeah,
local businesses. So that is the primary target. And, I always say put customers first. So I think at the end of the day, everything Google does and everything that works because it helps customers. And so if you can align yourself with the customer, like we talked about with branding, those kind of things, there's a lot there that we can get benefit from that helps Google and customers
yeah,
kind of
to
at
know
the
better.
same time.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense. And there's a lot to it. That's not a simple task. I know
yeah,
that the algorithms and everything are always changing, and there's all like that's a full time. That's a lot of work.
yeah, it's a lot of work. And that's what I say about SEO. I think most people could understand SEO.
Yeah.
And the more you understand SEO, the more you understand it's just a lot of work.
That's
you
I
know?
know enough to know it's a lot of work. That's for
Yeah.
sure. All right, so you mentioned AI briefly in your last answer. So let's do it. So
Yeah.
what are some of the best uses of AI currently in the SEO world?
Yeah. I think, what AI is doing that has always been done is it's just compiling search results, right? AI takes a search that you do and it does 10 searches around that topic and then compiles the results, right? So it's the same game in a lot of ways as far as ranking. And if you can rank on Google and you can rank on Google Maps, you're likely to be in that conversation. The interesting part, I think, for the future is me putting back on my marketing hat a little bit.
Mm,
And, what we say about the company in the text on the website, in
got it.
reviews, I think that's going to be a big piece of what helps, because now, AI is going to compile basically a blurb on
Yeah.
three companies. And so
Yep.
I think you have a chance here to market and say something about yourself that if you say it enough everywhere, basically an elevator pitch, right? If you put your elevator
Yeah.
pitch on all
Yeah.
the pages of your website, like, hey, we've done 30,000 jobs, right? 30,000 happy customers in our area or whatever. I think AI picks up on that and it puts it in the blurb. So I think this game, to me, is the way I'm thinking about it today, is first getting in the results, but then how do you separate yourself from everybody else? What can you kind of lead the AI to say about you that's going to make a customer go, oh yeah, that resonates well with me, and that's why I'm going to choose to call or contact this company over the other. So I think marketing is becoming a big piece
Yeah.
of this, and like, yeah, that elevator pitch, because people don't really read these sites anyways, right? So I think a paragraph about a plumber is pretty much enough for people to make the decision whether they're going to call them or not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then you're right, the reviews and a little paragraph and then some video. Yeah, that's but I mean your job's gonna get more and more complicated as AI starts grabbing. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know
Who
you know.
knows?
I'm
Who
preaching to
knows
the
where
choir,
it's
that's
going
for
to go?
sure. But
Yeah. It's interesting though. It's a
it
fun
is.
time to be around.
And they were
So,
always going to need guys like you that are going to come down and break it down for us and make it simplify because
yeah. And then I
it's just going
break
to
it
get more
down for you and
complicated.
then it changes tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You know?
That's right. That's
So,
right. All right. So, when you have, let's say you have a business and they have a small budget and they don't know really where to start, what are some tips, some things that they can start before they actually ever get to the point of hiring you? Because that's the goal, is to get in front of you and have you do their SEO. But how do they get
right.
started?
Yeah, I think, look, reviews are the one thing I always say it's hard to go
Okay,
back
good.
and get reviews later, right? So reviews, get reviews, especially on Google Maps. Take that into account, start getting those, take responsibility for it is what I meant to say. Start getting reviews, start getting the reviews, keep getting the reviews, because you can't do that later. That's
Yep.
very hard to do later. And if you, that's the one thing too that I see a lot of business owners will start doing. They get gung ho and then it's not easy to keep doing
Yes,
that. So they kind of
you're right.
stop. I think you've got to make that a priority and continue to make it a priority, because I can come and optimize your website and your Google business profile and all that later if you can't afford to do it now. But if you have 100 reviews versus if you have one, right, the
Way
benefit
better.
I can offer you quickly is going to be diminished by that. So that's the one thing I say business owners should just keep doing, keep getting reviews from customers. That's
Is
the
there a
big
way to
thing.
automate that, or set? I mean,
Yeah,
what is okay? So, what are some tips for automating that to make it so these guys are out there working in the field, doing the electric, they're crushing it, but there's got to be better
sure.
ways.
Well, look, there is, but automation comes with, the downside, which is you're going to lack volume. You
Mm,
you have to have enough volume to be able to automate, right? And then you
got
have
it.
to realize there's going to be a lot of loss. So I always say, look, when the number I see is typically about 15 to 20%. That's how many people are going to leave you a review if you do a really good job and you're automating the process. Otherwise, once again, you want to separate yourself, do the things no one else is willing to do. And that's every customer, ask them,
Yeah.
or have your team ask them, can you leave us a review? Here's a QR code, right? If you can get your number up to 40 or 50% of people giving you a review, I mean, that's such a massive difference over a year, 2 years, decade. So
Do you ever
there's,
get guys like? Do you ever like prompt like some kind of answer, or is it just like a free for all? Here, just leave a review.
yeah, look, I mean, and there's the nuances to the review. If there's images in the review, it helps, right?
Mm,
If they're longer, it helps. If they're talking about the services. So any way you can tell a customer, give them some information, I think is helpful. But at the end of the day, right, I'm not gonna make it so overwhelming for a
yeah.
customer that they then
Yeah, you're
just
right.
give up on it. So I think get the review. If you feel them out, hey, if you could leave it a little bit longer, then great. Otherwise, I always, you want to
Just
make it
getting it.
easy for the customer, right?
Yeah,
So,
I hear you. All right. So
yeah.
yeah, so it sounds like you're doing a bunch of different things. You're running these companies, your SEO. It's very involved. You're learning new things because there's always AI and there's other stuff going on. What kind of things? Because in this day and age, you could do all the things. How do you like rest and recharge? What advice would you be giving people?
Yeah. Well, I'd say I don't want to say.
Don't do a good job of it,
Yeah,
do you?
look, no, no, look, I just my team just lost a big game and they lost some players, my Packers. So,
Oh, okay.
that's my rest and recharge, but we
That's
went
it.
down to I was at the, I went to Denver, over the weekend and went to the Packers game, and
Oh, did you?
it was just
That's
a
cool. Yeah.
unfortunate outcome. So that I just Sundays I turn off. Look, I work probably 60-hour weeks. I go Monday through
Wow.
Saturday. I enjoy it. Sundays I shut it off, and luckily it's football season right now. So I just watch some football and then you
Just
turn it
hang out.
back on Monday. So that's what I like to do.
Is there like
So
a spread? Do you guys do the food and the whole spread, or what do you do? What do you got there?
yeah. Yeah. When I'm not on some kind of crazy diet, or running, 10
All right,
miles.
diet. Oh, so you run as well. So
Yeah.
you're running and you're doing other stuff
Yeah,
too?
I guess. Yeah. 7 p.m. comes around. I usually go for a run. And then,
Dang.
I've been through a lot of different health stuff as far as like diets and what do I not eating. So right now I'm no gluten,
Oh, okay. You're going
I've
through
done
this
no
thing.
sugar, no gluten, different, but yeah, I like to run. There's probably a billion things that I do that I just don't even think about that. Oh yeah, I do that as well. But Yeah,
Right.
I got a family. I work from home. It's nice. Like see my family all the time,
Cool.
but I get to work all the time. It's very good for me. But I've been doing it for 20 years, right? So
Wow.
it's
Yeah. I mean, you ever hop on the
I'm pretty
job
used
site and
to it.
check out stuff?
Yeah, yeah. I like to
Yeah.
work with the local customers and be able to go
Cool.
meet them for coffee. And yeah, I got a Wednesday appointment I go to with one of them,
That's
every
cool.
Wednesday. So I like to work with people I can talk to face if possible. It does help.
That's amazing. All right. So we appreciate your time today. Sounds like you really get into the data. Like SEO is just so intricate. There's so many details, so many changing and
Right.
moving parts. It's no wonder you preach that you don't want that action list because that's never going to work. There's so much intricacy. There's too much
You
to
just
it.
have to always be okay with the fact that
Yeah.
everything can change and that you might be
Yeah.
wrong about things. A lot of people struggle to, accept that I could be wrong about everything right now, and I need to be able to find ways to discover where I am wrong. So
Yeah.
I like that though. That
It's
keeps it
fun.
interesting.
It's like a game. It's like a murder mystery, and the
It
business
is.
is
It
you're
is a
trying to figure
game.
it all out. It is. So
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't even get into Google profiles. There's still stuff that people need to reach out to you and talk about because there's lots of different parts of it, and we try to keep it nice and tight. So if you want to take us out by talking about your business a little bit and how people get a hold of you, so that way you can have those SEO talks with them, please do.
Yep. Brightbeam SEO. Josh at brightbeamseo.com. I got a YouTube, I'm on Reddit a lot. You can look up Brightbeam SEO. I'm sure you'll see a lot of that. So
And you even have a couple of videos on there too about yourself and explaining yourself, which I found really helpful. So yeah,
yeah.
make sure you check it out. And if you have your SEO questions, which I'm sure if you have any interest in SEO and you start doing your own research, you'll know quickly you got to call Josh because it's a lot. Get a hold of him, set up a time, have a chat with him.
Yeah. Love to talk about this.